got a brand new baby.
I like when they're brand new. You want them to be brand new when they come out.
Monday at 4.
Republicans are claiming that President Obama's signature law is in trouble after he suspended a key part of the Affordable Care Act. The president last week granted a one-year delay for employers to provide health insurance, but left in place the mandate for individuals to get health insurance. The state-by-state exchanges that would offer health plans to people are supposed to come online later this year, but some now wonder if they'll be ready. We're talking about this now with Democratic Congresswoman Gwen of Milwaukee. Congresswoman, good to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, some people are suggesting the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is in trouble based on recent developments. What do you think?
Well, let me just say that implementation of Obamacare was always going to be difficult. It's a brand new, huge program, and it's been made even more difficult with the relentless efforts of Republicans to frustrate it. There were, 38 attempts to repeal Obamacare, and you have states like the state of Wisconsin that wouldn't expand Medicaid even at 100% federal cost sharing. So I think it was probably smart on the part of the Obama administration to suspend the employer mandate, which only affects a very small number of people who are in the marketplace. I mean, think about it, Mike. 90% of the population gets their health insurance already through their employer. They wouldn't be, affected by the exchanges. Another group of people in those states where they've expanded Medicaid would get health care through Medicaid. And this is a very small group of employers with over 50 employees that haven't provided health care to their employees. And already 2 million employees have already are expected to benefit from Obamacare because their employers have already come online.
So you're
about
okay.
360,000. Right. And
you don't think it's a fairness issue, because the argument is that why should individuals have to be held to the mandate when some businesses, maybe not a lot, but some businesses do not have to be held to it?
Well, I'll tell you, it'll make enrollment of other folks a lot easier. It'll simplify the application process because people won't have to be asked, vetted through whether or not this is an employer that ought to be doing it and they're not doing it, and so let's fine them for this year. Employers, we're still encouraging employers who would fit under this mandate to go ahead with attempting to do it. It's just that there won't be those penalties in place.
Briefly, do you think the exchanges are going to be ready come October when people will be able to sign up for them?
I think that this is going to be a real huge problem in implementation. As a matter of fact, I've gotten the Department of Health and Human Services to come to Milwaukee on August 6th to do a couple of workshops here in Milwaukee where I think we're going to have the biggest problem with implementation. A lot of it is because our governor has refused the Medicaid expansion. That's going to create a huge problem.
You're expecting a bumpy road.
I'm expecting a very bumpy road.
I want to ask you a quick question about comprehensive immigration reform. Your colleagues in the House, Republican colleagues, say we're not going to do a big piecemeal. We're going to not do a big package. We want to do this bit by bit. Why do we have to do this all at one time? Isn't some progress better than no progress on this issue?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, we're talking about, building a $30 billion fence. Border Patrol, and without making any provisions for dreamers or people who are already here, bringing them out of the shadows. The Congressional Budget Office has indicated that there would be a lot of revenue that we'd be leaving on the table for Social Security benefits, for Medicare benefits, for tax revenues, general tax revenues, were we not to do the other part of the path to citizenship for immigrants. I've noticed that folks like President George W. Bush have come out of his sequester to opine on this issue. Certainly Paul Ryan in our own state has, tried to talk to his caucus about the importance of comprehensive immigration reform.
Do you think it's going to happen?
Well, I do think that the gerrymander, which has benefited Republicans in this country, is now backfiring on them, because you've got about 65, 70 Republicans who are in solidly Republican districts, and they feel, and they're running the House. The Speaker has no control over them. They are very, very, very extreme in all of their views, and unless they decide to work with Democrats and break the so-called Hastert rule and join with Democrats, it may be very difficult.
I've only got about 30 seconds left. You made a little news last week by saying you do not think that Governor Walker will be president or could be president. Why do you feel that way?
You know, this is a sort of center-left country. And certainly, while he might appeal and be the darling of Tea Party folk, I think that he has managed to, that nationwide he'd be rejected by women. His views, his extreme views on the transvaginal ultrasounds. I do think that mayors all over this country, Democrat or Republican, won't appreciate how he has restrained and restricted and basically vetoed their power on the local level to levy taxes for road construction, water projects, you know, funding their school districts. I think that that he's very vulnerable. I don't think that and while he's very handsome, very well-spoken, a good politician, I don't even think he'd be able to get out of a primary.
All right. I guess you...
And he'd certainly be rejected here in Wisconsin. Even though we allowed him to keep his office, you know, voters told us they didn't like the recall, but that was not an affirmation of his fitness to be president.
Congresswoman Gwen Moore, Democrat from Milwaukee, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much for being with us. You bet.
Thank you for having me.
Next, why a Democratic theory that Governor Walker won't run for re-election is falling apart, and you can keep the conversation going throughout the week by following me at Mike Gousha on Twitter.
Dark skies changing in an instant.
These storms are moving rapidly.
Threatening your